Hey y'all, I'm Ada K. And I must confess, I'm a trial junkie. I enjoy viewing trials as if I was the seated juror. So grab a cup of java, get comfy, and join me as we hop into court. And don't forget to comment, like, and most importantly, subscribe. And if you're really enjoying the channel, please join our membership. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. We are doing a dual live, so hold on to your pants because I'm bouncing back and forth. Today, we are going through yet day 8 for the Melody Walker Farris trial. And when we left court, her granddaughter was trying to be on the stand through Zoom and they had some difficulties. So I assume she will be first up in queue. So I am ready for court. I hope you are. On my second live, we are waiting for the Boone motion hearing to start. So I'm going to go live with both of you right now, and then we will go separate ways when the trials start. So thank you so much for joining me. Good morning, Miss Ronnie. Okay, now I am live on both feeds. Yay, y'all. This is fun. Good morning, Ronnie. Thank you for being on both my feeds this morning. I'm loving the dual lives here. It's going to be a little bit of this, but I can do it. I know I can do it. Let's see. That's the one I want there. And I may have to go to the third one with the Richard Tellis sentencing. It's going to be at 10 o'clock. So, or is it noon? Anyway, we'll see how long these both go. We'll figure it out. Don't want to miss a moment of it. So did y'all grab your favorite cup of coffee? I haven't yet. I'm busy this morning. How are you this morning, love? How is my favorite mod? All my mods are my favorite, but Ronnie, I sure do love and appreciate you for hopping on this morning. So the docket today is going to be a little crazy, so I hope you guys can bear with me, but I'm excited to have the technology to be able to do this. It's awesome. Awesome. So yesterday, oh, by the way, I did look up in the Boone in the Boone court documents, and there was nothing filed as of 30 minutes ago, and I am so excited. There was nothing else because I was waiting for there to have an official motion hearing on whether or not Miss Boone can have food in court. She wants her snacks, and she's demanding her commissary be waiting for her when she returns to her cell every night. So I guess and the commissary was, let's see if I can find that again. Was it you, Miss Ronnie, who posted the commissary request? Nope. Who posted the commissary request? There was a commissary request posted, but it was chips and mint, I believe, and oh my gosh. I know, right, Ronnie? You've been checking for the Boone documents as if it's a winning lottery ticket. Hey, Ronnie, you're answering on the wrong live, but it's okay. I'm going to our mod section right now. I'm going. I got to run multiple things. In our mod corner, here it is, you guys. Okay. Ronnie, we're gonna have fun. You're answering me in the Walker Farris case about the oh, there it is. I was just getting ready to read it. But thanks for putting it up in front of me. 5 peppermints, 2 juice boxes, 1 bag of candy, 2 bags of chips, Pop-Tart, or a bag of cookies. Isn't she so special? Oh my gosh. It's too early in the morning for this, y'all. It really is. Oh, Lord have mercy, this child. I just I just can't. I just can't. Just can't do it. 1,000 points a lot. If y'all know where that came from, I'm impressed. Who knows where the 1,000 points of light came from? Who's gonna be my winner? Okay, uh, Boone trial, now they're saying it was supposed to be 8, now it's 8:15 AM. So over here on the Melody Walker Farris trial, the court is getting ready to start for the day. Yay! I know, I think she's forgotten about what she did to George. No food, no water, no nothing. Yeah, go figure. Yeah, the sense of entitlement runs deep. Very deep. Okay, guys. So in the Melody Walker Farris trial that I'm covering over here, the court is coming in. We can see some camera wiggles and some sound is starting to come through. I'm going to get my cup of coffee. Yes, coffee going. Oh, I found that it was very interesting that her clothing yesterday matched the the wood in the walls and the material on the chairs. I mean that the colors of that sea green just did not make her look sick. I want to know where she got that custom fitted suit. That suit was a tailored suit. My humble opinion, that was a nice suit. She can thank the county for that. Yes, she can. So, in the Melody Walker Farris trial, for those of you who don't know, who've been on the Boone boat, if you want to hop over to the little canoe next to you into the Melody Walker Farris, it's one of those sleeper ones. It's a good case. Interesting things that are happening. I've never seen a trial where the attorneys are not objecting and the attorneys are allowing the witnesses to testify in a narrative form. I mean, they're just letting them roll. I'm like, objection, question asked and answered, objection, relative objection, not answering. I mean, I would be objecting all over the place. And the judge even commented and made the comment, you groomed your witnesses to do that. Nobody's objecting when they should be objecting. He kind of smacked the lawyer's hands. We've had a couple objections since then. She is accused of unaliving her husband, who was an attorney who made really good money. They had the finest of everything, but to the point that he was in a position that if he didn't work, they'd lose it all. They had all the ATVs, they had the house, they had the silk um, cushions on their dining room tables and their plush leather couches. I mean, they had it all. And he had a little fling with his secretary assistant years ago, and then his wife started cheating on him, and she was spending money as if it was water. She was just going through it. There was marital strife there, and he ended up with a gunshot wound that had a bullet that landed in the inside of a rib cage. So that would imply that it went through the abdomen. And they've been arguing in court on the defense's side. How do you know it went through the abdomen? And I'm like, dude, a rib is curved. and the inside of the curved is inside the abdomen, on the outside is the outside. So anyway, it's been a little bit of a fun one. You just want to yell at the screen at them, some of the craziness that's going on over here. And then he was, I'd say 90% burned in a burn pit. Not much left of him. And so we are in the middle of the prosecution. They have the granddaughter. Now, both sons and one daughter has testified against her. And now a granddaughter who I think is about 17-ish. She's not an adult, but not 18, but I think she's like 16, 17. They were trying to get her up on Zoom yesterday and had a little complications. So that did not happen. I really hate putting young people up on the stand like this. I will say that Melody Walker did get emotional when the sons were on and the daughter was on the stand. But I noticed that when they were showing the remains of the husband, no emotion whatsoever. So over on the Boone side, in the big Boone boat, I wonder. Every time I say that with Sarah Boone, I want to start singing the song "I Wonder as I Wonder." Excuse me. I dropped my creamer cup empty. How far the judge is going to let her go with some of these requests. I don't see anybody else snacking during court. I don't see that why she should be permitted to snack in between breakfast and lunch and dinner. Now, if she wants her snacks after court, because apparently she's being awakened at 2 a.m. and to get ready for court, and she doesn't get back until 9. So maybe she doesn't shower and everything when she gets back. So maybe 10 is before she 11, 12, 1, 2. That's 4 hours sleep. That's tough. That's not an easy schedule to maintain. However, I can understand after the dinner that she may be given, she's wanting something to hold her up through the night. But I'm going to be shocked if they sit there and allow her to snack during trial. I mean, what are your opinions? Do you think she should be permitted to chow down during the middle of trial? And I don't think she needed a hairstylist and a makeup artist. She don't look too bad. And by the way, all the videos we've ever seen of her, she's never had makeup on. And if you notice, her hair is in far better condition now than it was when she was drinking and doing all that. Okay, guys, I'm going to mute the Boone, and I'm going to be over here for a moment. Okay, everybody, here we go. Wow, she looks nice. I love the jacket. Oh my gosh. Love, 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 love. Hello, Seeking North Nude. How are you? The snacks are for breaks. Okay. She's gotten very comfortable in court. Yeah, she looks we're back over to Boone. She looks just like one of the other attorneys, which is, I think, the goal. She wants them to see her as professional and cleaned up as possible. And that's understandable. I mean, you want to put your best foot forward, but it just, the way she does things is just absolutely kind of rubbing me raw. Seeking North Nude, this is your first time joining us. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. For those of you who are just hopping on, I have a dual live going right now and may end up with a triple. So on this side of the boat, I have Sarah Boone, motion hearing. On this side of the boat, I have the state of Georgia against Melody Walker Farris, the fire pit murderer. Oh, well, you're welcome. We love Sarah Boone. We can't get enough of Boone. But I have to tell you guys, The Melody Walker Farris trial is a what I call a sleeper, meaning it's interesting. It's more than I thought it was gonna be. I thought this was gonna be a simple, shut and open and shut case. Far from it. So when we're done with Boone, if y'all wanna hop over to that one, please do so. It is interesting. Well, commissary is closed by the time she gets back from court, yeah. But I don't understand why the attorneys aren't getting her snacks. Usually, when you're in a court situation like this, from personal experience, no, I was not the defendant. I was married to a defendant. Any and all food and everything is provided by the law firm. And of course, it comes out of the bill. I mean, you got to pay them for it, but they actually have somebody, one of their under lower level lawyers, or one of their interns, if they have one, is responsible for making sure that you get your food and making sure that you have hydration and all of that. So I'm kind of surprised that they are not doing that with her. Now, I find it interesting if you want to look in comparison with the Melody Walker Farris trial. She's sitting separate from her attorneys. She is very quiet over there. She's not talking to anybody. She's just a figure sitting in a chair. I kid you not. Every once in a while, sorry, I got an itch. Every once in a while, she will sit there and kind of throw a little comment here and there. But in general, she is a mouse. She is a wallpaper, and you almost forget she's there. Very big contrast compared to the Boone trial. So the judge over at the Ferris trial is country and just as technically savvy guy who's very relaxed, very comfortable. Um, it's a very vastly different environment over there. And then there's Boone. Hello, ADHD Jelly Bean. Thank you for joining. I love my law nerd. Thank you so much for hopping in. So we've got two ends of the spectrum going right now. So it's pretty interesting. So please join us over at the other trial if you wish after the Boone is done. Who is blowing up my phone this morning? Someone is just literally blowing up my phone. Um, there we go. I turned that off. We are going to once the Boone trial starts, we're going to start having some fun recap nights. We're going to be part of it will be just watching and supporting Trial TV Live. They're there with Jules, and they will be at the courtroom. Jules will be inside the courtroom, paying attention to jury reactions and all that. And Trial TV Live will be streaming live from the courtroom. We will want to support them, so we will be hopping on with them for their breakdown of what happened in trial. And that will be exciting. And I hope to get Jules on every once in a while on this side. That would be fabulous. Hey, y'all. Yes, I'm sounding Texas today. Um, so we have Squeegee of Justice and Jules representing in the Boone trial at the courthouse. So yay, they are there. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Someone shouted at me, "Good morning, therapist, you know." Good morning, Julie. Good morning, everybody at TV Trial Live. Trial TV Live, that's my dyslexia kicking in. I appreciate all of you guys. You're fabulous. We love them. And of course, yes, this is the chat popping up on that end. We are still waiting for the Melody Walker Farris trial to start. It should have started 20 minutes ago. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. For those of you who don't know, we do have a members only live coming up. But every Saturday we go and we have Saturday, I changed it. Every Sunday we have Sunday Night Live. Please come and join us. That's open to everybody. And then once a month we will have our members only live. Our next members only live will be happening November the 2nd. 2 days after the Halloween live, we're going to have a Halloween what day of the week is that? Friday? That's on a Thursday. We're going to have a Halloween night. We're going to have fun. We're going to be able to poke at all these court cases and just cut up and let loose. So come join us for that. I'm looking. Supposedly we have less than 5 minutes before the moon trial goes live. Okay, now we have. Okay, why am I not hearing sound in this case? I should be hearing sound. Oh, I guess they don't have sound up. How interesting. Let me refresh, guys. We do not have sound. Okay, we'll see what happens. Worst case scenario, I will pause. There we go.
Over there, and so that's why we have a chair in front.
Okay, guys, Melody Walker has started.
Okay. Yes. All right. Before we get started, if you're in court regularly in front of me, from time to time, I'm known to go off on a rant.
Uh-oh, the judge is going off on a rant.
Generally, by point of the day in which I do one of those, there's only like 3 or 4 people in the courtroom, and so no one gets to hear my rant.
Oh, guys, y'all need to hop on over while you're waiting. The judge is talking about rants.
Anyway, but I'm going to take a little opportunity right now, since we do have dozens of people watching us on the internet, to go off on a little bit of a rant here.
He's going off on a rant, y'all.
I am a tech guy. Y'all
He's a techie.
Realize that in working with me.
I knew it.
The problem with technology, however, is it should be seamless and it should be easy and should not make things more complicated as it was yesterday. And although I don't mind hopping down and working on the technology, it should not be my responsibility or my core function. There should be someone dedicated around here to do that.
God,
and no one in
He's
the building
raging.
is specifically trained to do it, and the county has not approved a position for it. Without going into budgetary issues, but that is a problem. And we have 10 courtrooms outfitted with this technology. And when we are using your time and paying you a whole $35 a day to be here, we shouldn't waste an hour of your time trying to get the technology to work. It should work, or I should be able to call someone and have them to come get it fixed. It is frustrating for me to have to do that. I don't mind doing it, but Tracy and Julian, my law clerk, and myself and Mandy from the court administrator's office were here till 6 o'clock last night trying to get it to work. We believe we found the issue to be a loose audio cable strapped up underneath to a zip tie to the equipment that's underneath this desk that plugs into the microphone system that goes in there, which may explain why I've been having intermediate problems with the sound for the last 6 months.
6 months? He's been having problems?
It'd be nice if we had someone else to do it. It should be someone else's responsibility. I've also been in jury trial since September 23rd. So before I started with y'all, I have been in trial for a week and a half continuously before that. And I'm a little bit tired. So I'm going to appreciate the half day off on Thursday. So anyway, so if anyone out in TV land wants to send a message to my county commissioners and tell them to get me an AV person, Go at it. All right. With that,
Oh, no, he didn't. Y'all just missed it if y'all weren't over there. Okay, let me tell y'all both what's happening at the same time. This poor judge has been struggling with the sound and with technology in the courtroom. He is a major techie, and he has come off the bench a couple of times to assist the lawyers on both sides with tech issues. Well, last night he stayed after hours for a couple of hours with several other people that work for him, and they finally tracked down the audio issue to a audio cable that is under his desk, which has been zip tied and been giving them hell for 6 months. And he said, unfortunately, there is not a tech person in his county to call for assistance like other places have. And they should have a tech person for the courthouse because there are 10 courtrooms in this courthouse. And it shouldn't be his responsibility to ensure the sound for all of us in TV land. He's such a cool dude. And that was such a polite rant. I love it. It was so awesome. Okay, we're still waiting for Miss Boone to start. Until then, we're over here. Y'all roll that beautiful footage.
let's go back. Oh, but we are skipping that witness, not because of the technology, but just because of scheduling. So we're going to do.
Yeah,
we're gonna
she's a
try
high
again
school
next
kid.
week, and then it won't work again.
She's a high school kid. So they're going to skip her until later. The judge needs a Braxton. I miss our Braxton. Y'all reach out to Braxton.
I do.
Okay, you can have a seat if you could please introduce yourself to the jury.
Okay, first witness
Name is
of the
Benjamin
day in the
Foxall,
Melody Walker Farris
investigator
trial.
with the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office, currently assigned to the Intelligence Division.
Bring the microphone down, dude. Thank you.
Quite well, but,
Okay, I'm going to mute the Boone people. I'm going to put up the
what is your
music,
assignment with the sheriff's
and I'll be
office?
back when the Boone
I'm
starts.
assigned to the Intelligence Division as part of the Digital Forensic Lab. My primary responsibility is the obtaining and analyst and storage of digital evidence.
What is your background in order to have a position like that?
Started training in 2016 with the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center's basic introduction to digital evidence. I then got my assignment to this unit in 2019, where I attended a series of classes through the National White Collar Crime Center in both computer and mobile forensics. In May of 2019, I attended the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists course, which is a 2-week course taught in Orlando, Florida, specifically about computer forensics and digital storage. After that, they've got a 4-month peer review period where you work through a series of problems with somebody that's certified that coaches you through the process before taking an actual final exam. Completed that process, obtained that certification. I've also taken multiple classes through a vendor known as Cellbrite, whose primary business is in digital and cell phone forensics.
We have Cellbrite
Taken their
again.
3 certification tracks, which is the operator, the analyst, and then their capstone certification, the Cellbrite Certified Mobile Examiner. And then I've taken a handful of other classes in other areas of forensics, including vehicles and drones.
You mentioned some certificates. Can you tell the jury about what certificates you possess in digital forensics?
So through Cellbrite, I hold the Cellbrite Certified Mobile Examiner. That's their capstone certification for the Cellbrite system in digital forensics, specifically in mobile devices. I hold the certification through that IASIS group. And then I also hold 3 certifications through Burla for vehicle forensics.
What is, did you say IASIC?
IASIS,
Yes, what is that?
An International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists.
You mentioned a lot of digital forensics experience, but you're also post-certified. Can you tell the jury about that?
hired at the sheriff's office in 2008, attended the basic mandate course in January, or completed the basic mandate course in January of 2010, getting my state certification as a peace officer. Then I have since taken a series of courses to get both my intermediate and advanced certifications through the state of Georgia, through the post council, as well as a field training officer certification.
And is digital forensics a field that's constantly evolving?
It is every day.
And do you have continuing education, both voluntarily and hours that you need to meet each year?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury about that, please?
So through the various vendors that affiliate with Cellbrite, Magnet Forensics, the National White Collar Crime Center, they all host training classes, new technology updates, webinars to just keep the information fresh. I also read most of the major release notes that come out from both Android, iOS, and Windows just to keep up with the technology. And then each certification has a certain requirement as far as recertification goes. And I've maintained those since they've been obtained. And those are typically through providing both training hours, and some of them have a knowledge-based checkup at the recertification time.
We've been talking a lot about digital forensics. Can you describe to the jury sort of what digital forensics is?
The digital forensics is just forensics on anything digital. So it's looking at a hard drive, what files are there, what files were
That
there,
was a really good
through
definition.
a process, using scientific
Digital
principles to
forensics
see
is
what's there,
anything
what's not
that's
there.
electronical that we
Same
need
thing for
to
mobile devices
to
and other devices.
get evidence off
So
of.
utilizing
Digital,
a
electronical
process and a series of tools to
data.
uncover the digital information that's stored on devices.
There we go.
At
God.
this time, Judge, the state would move to admit Detective Botsong as an expert in digital forensics.
What's his name? I got to go back. What's his name?
At this time, Judge, the state would move to admit Detective Botsong as an expert in digital forensics.
Did she say butt bong?
It's an investigator Botsong.
I'm making fun of the
you ask
investigator's
to
name. It sounds like she's saying butt
become
bong.
involved in the case against Melody
Don't know
Farris?
his name, but that's what it sounds like
How
to me.
so?
So the original examiner that had participated in this case early on passed due to complications from COVID. And in preparation for this case, I was asked to come on and do some validation and some further work on the digital evidence.
Did you train under that investigator?
Yes.
What a name.
So when you say
Hudson.
validation, what does that mean?
But he was a butt of everybody's
So-
joke.
Every file that we do, and as I mentioned during the introduction, it is a scientific process if you follow the steps in your best practices. There's a series of checks that happen on all of our data. So when it comes to a hard drive, we're not necessarily just plugging the hard drive into a computer and taking a look at it. We're using specific software following that specific process. So for a computer hard drive, we actually plug that into a device that is specifically designed and created to prevent alteration to that hard drive. So I plug it in a method where I'm not writing back to the hard drive. And then we make a copy of that hard drive. And during that copying process, my computer's completing, or any of the computers that are doing it are completing a set of mathematical calculations that are known as a hash. And it's just a complicated math formula run across data that comes out with a series of numbers. Now, that is both done as a data integrity feature and so that anybody that comes behind you can go through and run any program that's capable of conducting a hash. And as long as you're selecting the same hash algorithm that I do, you could take a hard drive that I imaged and worked on 5 years ago, run this calculation, and you'll get the same results. So in my validation process, it is exactly that. The known hash values are stored in the file itself. So I'd be able to take those files, load it into the application, run this process, and the numbers match from the initial copying of that hard drive or the device containing data.
You also took original images from some of the devices. Is that also what part of your task was later on in the case? EO1 files.
Yes. I mean, I did make some files for this case.
You what?
I said I had made some files for this case, yes.
So what I want to specifically chat with you about is you specifically looked at the CPAP machine that was found in Mr. Farris's bedroom, the Dell computer found in the basement, and the trail camera. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And you went through and actually analyzed the data within those items.
Yes, I did.
Okay. I want to start with the trail camera. Can you tell the jury where you began validating Kevin's work in the trail camera extraction?
So when working with Kevin, he had his files organized on our server from the initial extractions he had done when he copied the SD card from the trail camera. So the first thing I did was load it into a piece of software. I use one called Forensic Explorer made by a company named Get Data. And initially, the first thing I select is to actually run that hash validation, to run that mathematical formula to make sure that that data has maintained its integrity since it was originally obtained by the original analyst. In this case, all those numbers matched, which to me confirmed that nothing had changed with that data since it was initially copied. Then Forensic Explorer also has features to be able to display those files as if it was a drive. So it can make it look like you had just plugged that drive into the computer. Then it also has some advanced features to see certain other files that can exist there, whether they've been deleted or temporary or hidden.
Do you know at the time when you are extracting data from, in this case, it was an SD card, do you know what it's going to pull? Does it always pull all of the deleted information? Does it pull all of the saved information?
So it will pull what is there. So whether or not I expect deleted information is going to depend on, if it is full, if there's free space on there, just by the nature of how computers store data. So if there's a bunch of free space, you can't expect to see deleted items on there. If a drive is completely full, you're less likely to see more deleted data because that space has been utilized by new files.
The files that you pulled, did it pull full photo files, JPEGs?
It did for a lot of them, and then it also showed some file entries where the software was reading that at one point in time there was a file there, but the file content itself did not exist. So there were a bunch of files and then a bunch of entries of prior files.
When you pulled, when you put that data into Forensic Explorer, did it pull a little bit more than what Kevin's had originally pulled?
So Kevin had done some reports and some output. I did not go back and look at his initial examination files. So I don't know if I was looking at what he had looked at and he had selected certain items for output. So that's a difficult question to
Okay, so
answer, but it's...
When you pulled it, what do you mean by entry files?
So just like the front of a book, your computer storage keeps a index of what files are there. So it's just kind of a list of entries that contain files. And then depending on the file type, it will link to where those files are on the disk. If that area had been, overwritten by a new file, or that part of the hard drive is needed, by a larger file, those entries are still there and I can read the entries, but the data for the file itself is no longer there.
At this time, state would move into evidence, state exhibit box on.
Okay. I submit.
All right. Josh, if you could pull up the TVs, please. Judge, could you turn on the television? Thank you. Okay. All right, investigator, I'm showing you bot song 9. So essentially the file from the trail camera SD card. And I want to pull up, let's see, this file within that exhibit named 18-73198 images from SD card. Are these images that were pulled by Mr. Castellano from the SD card?
Yes, they were.
And it has the date of the file creation. Is that when the device created that photo?
Yes, based on the time settings on that device itself, that is the date it's reporting that the photo was taken or the file was created.
And then down here, what does this mean to you?
That the file had been deleted.
So this first photo appears to have been deleted. The first, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 were deleted. And then moving on from 8 down were not deleted. So I'm going to pull those up individually, but I first want to walk through each data on each photo. So for this photo, this was 7/2/18, 4:50 a.m. And it appears there's a raccoon, some animal.
Yes.
Your knowledge of trail cams, is it a motion sensor?
Yes.
Okay. So it'll take a photo when it senses motion.
Yes, it will.
Okay. And then on this one, file number 2, 7/3/18,
Good morning, Toxic
2:20
Orchid. I am
PM.
doing 2 lives at one, Boone
I think there might
and
be a squirrel in
Farris.
there somewhere.
Yay. Yes, I do have them. Do you need them, love?
Yes, there he is on the tree.
Thanks for asking. I was able to grab those
and that was
yesterday.
deleted?
Yes.
Oh, thank
On-
you. I appreciate the effort.
Okay. And then
How are you doing?
7/4,
Miss seeing you.
3:24 p.m. I believe we have another
Wonderful.
squirrel that triggered that photo.
Well, I'm going to be pushing my
deleted?
system.
Yes.
I may end up with 3 lives at once today. We'll see if we can do it.
July
We'll see.
4th, 2018, 5:53 p.m.
Boone is running late
We
as
have another
normal.
squirrel over here,
Yes.
and that was also deleted.
Yes.
Okay. And this appears to be a person walking by on the 5th
Correct.
at 12:05 p.m. Deleted. Is that accurate?
Yes.
All right. And then the 6th file, 7/5/18, 12:06, also deleted.
Yes, it is.
I think this is the last one. And this appears to be a male walking up, possibly walking up to the camera, also deleted from the 5th.
Yes.
Okay. And then this image was created on the 5th, but this says false. Does that mean that was on the SD card, not deleted?
Correct.
Okay. Same for this photo for the 6th.
Yes.
And then this
We
appears to be a
did,
SO
Toxic. That was
employee on the 6th,
insane.
12:42 a.m.
Yes.
Not deleted.
Correct.
And it appears it's moving. In this photo, 12:51
sorry
a.m.
for
on the 6th.
the shots, but
Yes.
I'm glad baby's doing well.
And then do you
Are you doing
recognize
well?
any of this. in the
Lurk all
background
you
here on
want,
the
love.
6th.
We love you.
I don't recognize the background, but that does look like one of our shirts.
Okay, so it's SO employee.
I
And then
believe so.
the last one from the 6th at 12:53 a.m. not deleted.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So it appears, pull that back up. This was the only one from the 3rd, which was at 2:20 p.m. And that's that squirrel there on the tree. And then a couple on the 4th of 2 squirrels. And then it moves to the 5th.
Yes.
Okay. Next, I want to talk to you about something a little more complex. Did you have the opportunity to look at the Dell computer located in the basement of the Farris house?
Not the computer itself, but a copy of the hard drive, yes.
Okay, so the hard drive was imaged,
It was.
and that was a bit-by-bit copy?
Yes, it was.
And you had the opportunity to look through that copy of the hard drive?
Yes.
What was it that you were looking for?
I was asked to determine a last point of when it was used or somebody had logged into it.
So sort of user.
Looking for looking for artifacts of human interaction with the computer.
So for computers, do they have, can the system itself push out tasks onto the computer without somebody actually sitting in front of it?
Yes.
And are you able to tell the difference between a task that a human would perform on a computer versus possibly the system performing a task?
A lot of the times I am. There are a certain small amount of instances where it's difficult to tell.
Where it's difficult to tell?
Yes.
So this image of this hard drive that you looked at, I want to walk through your report. I guess I'll just move it into, I'm going to say it's exhibit box on 7.
No.
Which is your Dell report. And I can go ahead and give you this, and I can look at a digital copy if you would like. I'm just going to start with page 1 and kind of walk through. And hopefully, in layman's terms, describe the very technical work you did on this. All right. So on your first page here, what is this first box for computer information?
So a computer has a place where a bunch of the information on operation instructions and who it belongs to and other information is stored, called the registry. And in this case, this is a selective output of that information. And the first box itself shows that it is a Windows machine and it gives you the install date. But the more important part of this is pulling the registered owner.
Which says what?
In this case, it says G. Farris.
Okay, and then time zone information. Why is this important for you?
It gives me which time zone the computer is set in. So that way, when I'm doing any sort of analysis work with any of the files involving times, I know which time zone I'm looking at. And it's actually fairly common for a computer to be in the wrong time zone. So just to make sure I'm getting the times correct, we look at this entry.
Do you often have to convert time zones when you are analyzing digital evidence?
Yes.
And in this case, for this computer, were certain sections that you were looking at in different time zones? Or did they all appear to be consistently in UTC or Eastern time?
Everything was either in the UTC value or in Eastern time.
What is UTC?
It is the Universal Coordinated Time, or as they used to teach it, Greenwich Mean Time, which is in England, where it's just there's no compensation to the time zone. While in Georgia, we are either 4 or 5 hours behind that timeline.
And then I'm going to move down to the computer name. This computer had a name. What was the name?
Yes, basement PC.
Okay. Pretty self-explanatory there. All right, I'm going to move on to your section 1. And I've titled these sections to keep them straight. Chrome downloads. What is Chrome?
Chrome is a internet browser that is made by Google.
Why did you decide to look at internet browsers for user intervention?
That's one of the both easier and more common areas to see information on usage, as a lot of the use of a computer nowadays is becoming internet browser based.
Okay, so we started with Chrome, and it appears that these are in UTC. So what does that mean for you?
So in this case, that is in that coordinated time and not compensated to Eastern. So we would have to subtract 4 hours, because in July, our time offset would be 4 hours. So that to get to the time that it would be here in Eastern time.
So these were the last downloads that you pulled right here that you took a screenshot of?
Yeah, that was the 3 most recent Chrome downloads.
Okay. And they appear to be PDF files. Is that accurate right here?
Yes.
And the user downloaded them, and it appears saved it onto the desktop. Is that what that means?
Yes.
You located that same file that was downloaded in the desktop folder.
Correct.
Okay. And that was on July 3rd, 2018, and the Eastern time would be 1:51:09 p.m.
So the download was showing slightly before that, but the 1:51:03 is the download, and then the file time itself, located in the download folder, was 6 seconds later.
Right here.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to Chrome history. This would be the user's browser history.
Yes.
Okay. For Chrome specifically.
Correct.
Okay. You noted this website, and you might call it something different, but I'm going to use website. Citrix. Can you describe that to the jury right here?
Citrix itself is a company that offers a lot of applications, primarily to small, medium, sometimes larger businesses. It has anything from some remote computer applications to file sharing, to a varied other set of business tasks that can be logged into from a browser.
And you sort of focused on the access to citrix1.ber. Can you describe that to the jury, why you focused on that?
Burr.com is one of the names that I was informed belonged to the law firm that Mr. Farris had worked for. I don't know that part of the arrangement, but and that just as far as establishing usage, getting onto a corporate resource and accessing work materials, I flagged it as the information I was presented was this individual was pretty much always working and always accessing work resources.
And are these are UTC, so we would subtract 4?
Yes.
Okay. So let's move up here to LinkedIn. Are you familiar with what LinkedIn is?
Yes.
What is it?
It's, in light terms, it's social media for business. and allows you to make a professional resume style profile and list accolades and friend and recommend business colleagues, as well as it does have some hiring features, some job hunting features, as well as some news articles that are posted by both professional outlets and individuals.
And it appears that the history for Chrome here, the last entry was 7/3/2018 at 2:32 p.m.
Yes.
Okay. And then we move on to Internet Explorer, which is just another browser. Yes. Internet browser.
At the time, yes, not so much anymore, but
RIP Internet Explorer. Okay. So this is also in UTC time.
yes.
Is that accurate? Okay. Now we got a couple of, excuse me, later entries here. So I want to talk about the Internet Explorer history that you pulled from this computer. Can you walk through, you made a note here. Can you walk the jury through this opinion that you concluded?
So that top entry listed at July 4th shows a visit to a website that is titled msftconnecttest.com. I did a little bit of reading into the function of that task and what that task is, and found that it is a system task done by Microsoft that is essentially just a check-in to make sure that Microsoft applications and programs are operating effectively. So, for Outlook to work correctly, Teams, if you use Teams, which is a chat and video calling and meeting application, it will reach out when either you're booting into Windows or an application is about to be used, just to reach out to Microsoft to do that initial, hey, I'm over here, everything's okay, to check that connection status to make sure that your interaction with Microsoft products is a seamless experience.
I'm
That's
with you there,
only
Toxic. This weather changing is
log
killing me.
for the 4th.
Yes.
Okay, I want to talk about the ones that are below it. This is in UTC, so is this 7/4 technically 1:14 a.m.? Explain what the actual time and date of these entries are.
So that would be on the actual night of 7/2.
Okay.
So you
So the
subtract
last-
4 hours back, you would get to the 2nd of July.
Okay. So we'll jump down to these down here. So these are the 3rd. Well, I guess, except, are these in chronological order? What kind of order are these in?
Yes, they're should be organized by time
So
stamp.
we've got a couple of AMs here, and then we've got the 7/3/5:49 p.m.
Yes, and that would be 1:49 p.m. on the afternoon of the 3rd of July in 2018.
Okay, and so
I'm
all of
sorry,
these
y'all
for
had to get a
AM
little
would
bite of my
actually be on the
breakfast.
2nd if you convert the time accurately.
Correct.
Okay, so then for 5:49 p.m., 5:47 p.m., that's 1:49 and 1:47 p.m.
Yes.
Okay. So between the 3rd and the 4th, 1:49 p.m. appears to be the latest Internet Explorer visit from a user.
Yes.
All right. Move down to event logs. What are event logs?
I'm glad you got some help, Miss Toxic. That's
So
awesome.
Windows keeps logs of pretty much everything that happens.
That's awesome.
On your computer as you're using it. I can store, error logs, install logs. But one of the more important areas to me is the actual log in, log out logs. It will actually have a entry into a file, which is actually just named the event logs, when a user or a task logs in or accesses system resources, among some other information.
So what event log is 4624? What does that tell you?
So the 4624 is actually the code that it attaches to login entries.
To log in entries.
Yes,
So when somebody actually sits down and types in their password and logs into the computer.
it will create one of those, yes.
Okay. So for this Dell, and is this in, it says UTC, so we have to subtract 4 again?
Yes.
Okay. So on the 3rd, the last login was when?
The last login itself is at 3:42.
So that's this one highlighted right here.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and then you had 2 types of logons. You broke that down on your next page here, and we're still on bots on 7. Can you describe that to the jury?
So each one of those entries.
Toxic.
well,
That
it's
is
a
so
specified view
awesome.
that
I
was
am
on
so
the
happy for you.
prior
And yes,
page.
ASL is
Each
definitely
one
a
of those entries
bonus.
contains.
Didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. Oh, my bad. Hit the wrong thing.
There is multiple different types of logins that Windows will log. There's network login, there's user password, there's a system task that accesses the system, and those are all inside these 4624 log entries. They put a difference right in the second block of information. It's right there at the top of the page now. The under login information, the login type, it has a number next to it.
That's right here.
Correct.
Okay.
So in this case, the login type number 2 is the one that I can attribute directly to a user entering a username and passcode or a PIN to log into the system. The other one I was seeing that was in these as well was a entry number 5, which is a system task, was logging into the system.
We'll get to that one in a second. So the last one that you could attribute to a person was on the 3rd. Is this Eastern time right now?
Yes, this
Okay.
one has been compensated, and this was the last type 2, which is a user initiated login that I could locate on the system.
Okay. And then you mentioned a type 5. So let's move on to the type 5. Okay. So here you're just describing the types. So talk about, you've already kind of described it, but now that they know there are 2 types of logins, describe again the type 5 logon.
It's when a service starts, which is just a process that's running on your computer. And a service account, which is just an account that's exactly for these tasks to run. Service task logs in and utilizes resources or performs a task on that system.
So not a human.
Correct.
And you noted that there was a login type 5 at 342. Well, all the way until 342.
Correct. So there was some intermittent of these tasks that were running all the way until that 342 timestamp.
And is that on the 3rd?
Yes.
July 3rd of 2018.
Correct.
Okay. And then you noted application event log, an Outlook error. Can you describe why you put this in your report?
Just while I was going through all of this complex logs, I was looking just for signs of user interaction or trying to narrow down the last use of this system. And the same way Windows captures those login events, among other events, it also has a log specifically for applications. So anytime an application has something that is loggable, it'll have an entry in the system. In this case, what we're looking at is the Outlook application itself, which is a program for email, had entered an error code into this log saying that the attachments to the message was too large.
So then did you go back to Mr. Farris's emails and see if he had sent one with attachments? An email?
I went back actually to his phone and looked into the email list to see if there was anything inside that time frame that would be consistent with this error. And at fairly close to the same time, there was an email being sent from the phone with some larger attachments to it.
At 1:55 p.m.
Yes.
On July 3rd.
Correct.
Okay. These are the attachments that were too large.
Yes.
Okay. Thing I wanted to discuss. Okay, I don't know if we really discussed this. So on the 4th, you mentioned that this MSFT Connect is a system push.
Yes.
Okay, that could be triggered how?
One of the things that I discovered during reading about specifically that task itself was in that check to the Microsoft servers. It happens when you first go to use a computer, whether it was sleeping, whether it was off, whether you were just about to log into the system. And one of the common places that it had been seen is you're first turning on your computer, or you're first opening the lid, or you move the mouse, hit the key press to get to the password screen. That Windows task is going to try to reach out to Microsoft to make sure those applications will function. So with laptops, if the lid's closed, a lot of times individuals will have their system set to go to sleep or in a low power mode. So the most likely scenario for this one is either the system was sleeping, the screen was off, or the lid was closed. And when the system powered on or came back awake or came out of low power mode, it went to connect to that Microsoft service to get ready for the user. So the most likely thing that occurred was either somebody had moved a mouse or that a lid had been opened.
And that was on the 4th, and we would have to subtract 4, so that'd be 11:09 a.m.
10:09.
I'm sorry, you're right. Okay. 10:09 a.m. on the 4th.
Yes.
Okay. And you can attribute that to the computer waking up, or essentially Microsoft getting ready for a user.
Yes.
So coming out of sleep mode, etc.
Correct.
Okay. Were there any tasks beyond that one?
No.
Okay. Now we're going to move on from the Dell and talk about the CPAP machine. At this time, Judge State would move to enter into evidence thoughts on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10.
All right. No objections?
No. All right, they're admitted.
Thank you. Okay. You had the opportunity to essentially pull the data from a CPAP machine in this case, or the SD card that was located within the CPAP machine.
Kind of this similar methodology to the trail camera itself. The CPAP machine had initially been imaged by the prior examiner, Kevin, and I started off with that copy of the SD card from the CPAP.
So it was data from the SD card that Kevin had imaged
Correct.
and saved.
Yes.
Okay. And you went ahead and validated that and then figured out what to do with that data.
Yes.
Fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. How did you figure out what to do with that data? Because it didn't come
Let me turn this around. So here's our setup.
jury about that.
So CPAP machines, keep a log of all the sleep events and everything else, and they're typically proprietary to whatever software or cloud-based solution that your doctor's office would use. The primary intent is to share your sleep data with your medical providers. So usually they're kind of walled in their own garden of needing to be opened in the proprietary software or a cloud account. I initially looked into how to read that data through this specific provider. One I believe was named AirSense, and learned that it is either paid software or a cloud account provided by a medical provider. Further research through the forensic community and some of the communities that I'm involved with online as part of my continuing education and keeping up with the trends. There was an article that I located about an open source project that created a free to use software application that was open source that had been specifically made to make an environment and software where you'd be able to look at the data yourself. So in this case, I downloaded that specific application after researching everything that it had done and talked to another examiner who had prior experience with that software application itself, and then created a instance on one of my forensics machines, installed it, and then I was actually able to load the SD card information into the software.
Into readable tables and graphs and data.
And then it took it and made it into where, instead of just seeing the file dates and times, which were pretty much all that were available until I discovered this application, into actually being able to view the data in a actually quite nice presentable format.
All right, I'm going to open bot song 1. It says CPAP statistics standard. So is this the program that helped you load all this?
Yes.
Okay. Oscar usage statistics. And this is the data that was on the CPAP. Was it an SD card?
So I took the image of the SD card, and then I had to export it onto another drive, basically making a separate copy of the SD card. And then I put that into the system, running Oscar, and imported all that information from the original files that I had just exported.
Okay, so this breaks it down. Most recent 7/2/2018. Can you explain to the jury how the CPAP calculated days?
So this specific vendor, AirSense, both on its website and in the profile, when I selected in Oscar, or this application, that this was an AirSense machine, they both advised that it kept time slightly strange, and it kind of just gave it to you as an acknowledgement that so you'd have the understanding of what you're looking at, instead of the normal switching dates at midnight like all of us do. Seeing CPAP machines are primarily used at night, its date change is actually set for 12 noon. So between 12 noon all the way until noon the next day is one date. So the dates appear to be behind in this instance, and it'll clarify a little bit in one of my next reports, but
Mhm.
this most recent 7.2, according to how this machine keeps dates, is from noon on the 2nd all the way until 11:59 a.m. on the 3rd.
Okay. And we'll get to see that in one of the next exhibits. So here it says days not used, 0. What does that tell you?
So, and this report is broken down into all the categories I had available.
CPAP reading?
It has detections on how many
Hmm.
days this device was not used. So in the last night, it's showing that it was.
Do y'all remember? Y'all may not have remembered way back when they were talking about a CPAP, and I said, "Look, our CPAPs now can send information to your doctors, and they all have a little memory card in them. So sometimes you can take that card out, take it to the doctor, they put it in, they download the information. Mine has its own modem, so the doctors can monitor. That's how they got that information.
Double negative, not used. So this device was used on the last night. There was a log. In the last week, the last 30 days, and the last 6 months, it reported 0 days that it was not used. So it had been used every night in what it's reporting the last 6-month period. And then within the last year, it was showing a 60-day period of not showing use.
Why was that?
I believe the first reported entry was less than a year. Or this file goes all the way back to July, and if you look towards the top, the initial initialization date is in September.
So there's about 2 months there where either he didn't have it or he had another one or wasn't
Correct.
reading. Okay. All right. Let's move on to bot song 2, overview report. And this is usage from, it appears September 1st to July. Is that fair?
It should be September 1st to July 2nd.
July 2nd. Okay. And there's not a void in this graph to show that it was not used one day. Fair?
He's got really bad sleep apnea,
And
y'all.
does this graph here show the times that
Just saying.
the user, presumably Gary, the times of his sessions of the CPAP being on?
Yes.
And we don't know about pressure. Okay, so bot song 3 breaks it down a little bit. This might be similar to 1. So this is a reporting for 305 days, and he used days. Does that say 305 days used?
Yes.
Okay, out of how many days?
305.
Is this broken down by month? Bot song 4?
It is.
Okay. Is July 2018 the most recent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they
And
can,
this
Ronnie.
has-
People don't realize how much information's on your CPAP machine.
percentage of days used, 100%? Is that what that says?
Yes.
Okay. It also has an average of how many hours that user sleeps.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Bot song. Let's go to overview last week. Usage from June 26th to July 2nd.
Yes.
Okay. And then, all right. So you mentioned that it kept time from noon And so what is this table telling you right here?
This is the marked in all of the graphs as July 2nd. But in that date example and all the disclaimers they gave, if you actually look at the start time, the start time is logged as 2018-0703 at 0037 or just after midnight. And then the end time has the same July 3rd at 0748, so 7:48 in the morning. So even though the log file is showing July 2nd, we clearly see that the start and the end date are on both July 3rd.
I'm going to pull up last one, bot song 10. What are we looking at here?
And this is a screenshot inside the Oscar application, something that I was not easily able to get into a report. So I took a screenshot of the last session that was available, the one that was showing the log file as 7.2, showing both the date a little better clarified as 7/3/2018 with the start of 0037 or 12:37 a.m. and an end at 7:48 a.m. with the total time of 7:11. And then it shows some CPAP, other statistics that I'm not as familiar with.
And that was the last session that the AirSense logged.
Correct.
That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Good morning, Investigator Bosso.
Good morning.
It's nice to cross you. I'm going to start with the SD card stuff. So, do you know who deleted the SD cards?
Yeah, people don't realize what technology we have in our house really track us.
Well, so you didn't delete them, right?
Correct.
Okay, because Scott Farris testified earlier that last week that he was the one who deleted it. So it is your opinion that, I know it's from the top, I believe. So this one, it says 1, it's got the file name and all that, and that's the photograph. So this is photograph 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the last photograph that was deleted, correct?
Yes.
Because that says deleted is true, and that individual who was previously identified as Scott Farris is walking up to the camera, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then you got another one that is not deleted, and that appears to be the same individual walking past the camera again.
Yes.
Okay. And then you've got just things on the 6th, and these are you weren't there, but those are Sheriff's Office investigators.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So. I want to go to your review of the Dell. So, I got my notes on your copy. So your testimony is that with the Chrome download that this time, that is UTC time?
Correct.
Okay. And so that would put that time 4 hours later. So at 1:51?
Correct.
And it was at that point that Gary Farris, or presumably someone, was downloading a PDF.
It just a user of the system downloaded the PDF.
Okay. A user.
Yes.
Do you know, was this computer, was it password protected?
Yes.
How do you get in something like that?
So Windows is designed to prevent access from the device itself.
Not everybody
and
who
unless you
uses a
have some of
CPAP
the
is
more
overweight,
advanced,
although it is encouraged to
security
lose
features
weight if you
enabled,
do,
like encryption.
but
That security
not
is
everybody
designed
uses
to prevent
CPAP
somebody
is
from removing
obese.
the hard drive and plugging it into another computer and being able to read it, which in our standard practice, that's what we do. We do not use the individual device that comes into us. We remove the hard drive and plug it into that right blocked device and access it that way.
Okay. Let's go here. Make sure that that's not too good. Zoom in a little bit. So I want to clear something up. This event ID 4624, that is an ID associated with a regular normal login?
It's just the login in general.
Login in
There's
general?
not a regular normal.
Well, because you had talked about login 2s, login 5s, and things like that. So is that a login 2? Or you don't know the difference? You can't tell the difference based on that ID?
The ID itself, no, but that is available further down.
Okay. Well, that's what I was going to ask, because here we've got an event on, it looks like July the 3rd, 7:42 p.m., which is UTC.
Correct.
So that would put that at what, 2:42? 3:42.
42.
At 3:42 p.m., there's some type of event going on the computer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And that one I specifically noted below is one of the ones I attributed to the system tasks.
Yeah. So we got an event going on. Because I think you put in your summary report that basically Gary logged on at 1:20. And then there is a login 5 at 3:42, right?
Correct.
Okay. And with because Ms. Frankish had gone through with you, these are all UTC times too, all of these websites that he was visiting.
Yes.
So he was at least on reading this, Congress trumps regulators regarding loans. That would have been at 2:32. He was reading that article, or the user was presumably reading that article.
The user had navigated to it. Whether they read or not is not something I'm able to see.
True. They're at least on that website.
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning,
And then
Adair.
I'm assuming your testimony was that.
Oh,
that
thank you very much,
event
Karen.
At 3:42 is some type of Microsoft automatic,
The 340.
something that it does.
The 342 one was one of the ones with the
Sorry about that. I was
Type
trying to
5
move
login.
the,
which is those.
thank you so
system
much for the
tasks.
You can't have a
captioning.
type 5
was trying to
login
move
while
it
you're
up.
logged in under.
I don't have
Have to.
control over that.
No,
You're
those
welcome, Eddie.
Do happen.
That does happen?
Yes.
Okay. So
For those of you who
you
are just
can't
hopping on,
distinguish
I've got
that
2
type of
trials
event
going on
between a
at
type
once.
2 and a type 5.
So if you
I can-
see me
I
talking,
can
you don't hear
distinguish
me, it's
between
for
a
the
type
other
2 and a
trial.
type 5. Some of the screenshots are showing exactly that, where
Yes.
that information is available. Looking at the list like this, you cannot.
Well, this is your report, right?
Yes.
All right. And yet again, that's all 7.3. And I guess there is another one under the Internet Explorer. Right here on the,
Hello, Zach.
the 4th
I got
at
2 streams
2:09
going.
PM.
Both
It
the
was your
Boone
opinion
and the
that
Ferris
was
trial.
only,
Welcome. Thank you
some
for
type of
joining us.
Microsoft security update or some type of Microsoft update.
Not an update, but reaching out to Microsoft servers to ensure that a Microsoft application was able to function properly.
Okay. And so is that that's in UTC time as well?
It is.
Okay. What time would that have been? Not UTC time.
That would have been at 10:09:38 a.m. on the 4th.
Mhm. Now, I'm not going to go over all the CPAP information with you, but essentially, the gist of your testimony and your analysis of the CPAP machine was that Gary used his CPAP at least every day, according to what you can tell from that one SD card.
Yes.
Were you aware that Gary had gone to the hospital several times during the year, or at least one time during the year 2018?
No.
When you're calculating this or trying to figure this out, did the DA's office tell you to take the I know not take it. You weren't there when it was taken, but did they reach out to you and say, "Hey, look at that CPAP SD card"?
Good luck,
going on?
toxic.
They
Extra hugs.
the initial output
Hey, howdy over here too.
from the initial investigation of the SD card just showed a bunch of files and not a bunch of information. I was asked to see if I could navigate it into a readable format.
So essentially from the CPAP, you learned that Gary used it every day, and the last time he used it was on the 3rd.
Correct.
On the 3rd when he took it off.
Correct.
And going to the Dell, you were able to learn that somebody used that computer last time being later in the day, July 3rd.
Yeah, not later in the day, but that afternoon, log in at 1:20.
Yeah, so somebody logged in and used it.
Correct.
And then there's not a top 5 login until 3:42.
Correct. And then no logins past that.
No logins past that, but you can actually have a top 5 login and a top 2 login at the same time.
Correct.
Okay, no further questions?
How big is the SD card in the trail camera?
I'd have to look. I don't remember off the top of my head.
How many images does it hold?
It had the images presented, and then there was another 20 or 30 images from a couple months prior that were in the deleted as well.
That aren't in your report?
That initial report was for Mr. Castellan or Kevin, who had produced the report based on anything with a July timestamp, I believe.
So we don't know what's on the camera from before the date of this report.
I've seen it and I turned over the files.
So we need to take something outside the presence of the
We'll
jury.
get there. Hold on. So there are images on the camera that were taken that were not displayed to the jury, correct?
Yes.
All right, we'll get to Wither's explanation. All right. Were there images that were not available to be extracted because they had been overwritten?
It's hard to answer it that way, but
Well,
there were.
you don't know how long it had been up, right?
Correct.
So if it'd been up for a year and every month someone goes and deletes the images, eventually it's going to start overwriting it.
Correct.
Does it do that sequentially or does it do that randomly?
The file naming should be sequential while the deletion is user-based and up to the user.
Does the computer inside the trail camera decide when it wants to start rewriting over files based upon when it wants to, or does it go through systematically and deletes the oldest files still on the SD card that's marked for deletion, or will it skip?
So as far as the SD, or as far as the unit itself deleting files, that is a setting that's inside the camera itself, which I do not know as far as the setting of that camera. As far as which entries are overwritten, that's again how the camera is programmed
It's up to the camera to decide when it starts to rewriting over images.
and which sections of the SD card it writes to.
Does it save thumbnails in the metadata?
I believe everything I saw out of it was full images.
All right. The CPAP machine. You didn't attempt to utilize get someone to give you access to the CPAP program approved by the manufacturer?
I had started down that route, and that's when I discovered this open source project that the open source license project that has the ability to read the make and model for the CPAP machine that we had.
That is not approved by the manufacturer.
Correct.
That is a report format that somebody out there who's interested in this kind of thing created it on its own to extract the software and data and put in some format in some table that they think is appropriate for the data based upon crowdsourcing and other folks that are interested in the same type thing.
That's pretty accurate for all open source projects.
Right. Not approved by the manufacturer who created it or their software that they have designed to go with the system.
Correct.
So it might be correct and it might not be. It could be the same as if I wrote it.
The documentation I read said it had full support for the CPAP device, and
From
The
other
other-
people who wrote the code to
Yes.
extract
I don't know where that
the
sound came
data
from.
and put it in the tables.
correct.
Anybody else got any questions based upon my questions?
I'm sorry? I have no follow-up, Judge.
What are these photos that you didn't turn back?
I mean, I had provided everything that I had out. There was photos from a couple months prior of more raccoons and more deer and what looked like some gardening.
No. Go ahead, Mr. Ray.
What do you mean a couple of months before?
There were some images from, I believe it was March and April, that were just other animals and other things crossing in front of the cameras.
Okay, so what about June, a whole month before? So you said March and April. May, June?
Not that I remember.
So there's a whole month that there's not even a squirrel on this farm in front of that deer figure?
Correct. And
Who told you what to turn over?
I turned over everything that I had.
But no, you didn't, because you're testifying that there were other things that you didn't turn over. Right? You just said it.
I mean, I provided the raw data from the devices itself and produced every report that I was asked to.
Who asked you to produce this report?
DA's office as
Okay.
part of discovery.
Did they tell you to limit the photographs that you turn over?
So this report itself was a report that was created by Mr. Castellano upon his initial work. I believe I said earlier that he had pulled the information from July
Okay.
and put it into this report.
Okay. So is it your testimony now that you took those other images that you found that you claim have no evidentiary value? Did you turn those over to the DA's office?
Yes,
Okay. So they have those images.
I turned over the raw data from the SD card to the district attorney's office.
Okay. Did that raw data that you sent over, did it look like this or something similar like this?
No, this is a report that was completed and had information from the month of July as pulled from the camera.
Okay. Is there anything else that you have turned over that you haven't heard us talk about today or ask you about? Photographs or any other thing that was maybe relevant?
I mean, I've turned over all the digital files that I had to the district attorney's office.
Okay. So your testimony is you turned over those other photographs,
So
correct?
I did not, this the same way as I don't hand over each individual file to a computer.
Mm-hmm.
I turned over the files from the SD card.
So you're saying you turned over everything that was on that SD card.
A copy of the SD card was sent up.
Okay. And so if the copy of the SD card that I get only has 11 photographs, that's not correct. Or I'm sorry,
I mean, I don't,
16 photographs.
I don't know what you were provided, but if you were only provided something with 16 images, then
What you turned over was more than that.
it was a SD card, an image of the SD card. So it was a complete copy of the SD card.
Okay. How many photographs were on the SD card?
I don't know.
Not deleted, deleted otherwise. Just as best of your recollection.
I mean, complete guess, 30.
30. So if I told you I only had 16, that's half, right?
Roughly.
Okay. Now, with what the court had asked you about the program you used to analyze the CPAP statistics, what did you call it again?
The name of the program is called Oscar.
Okay. And that's just a program that you found online.
Correct.
Okay. Open source, which means free.
Yes.
And did that program, because My understanding of your testimony was that you looked at the raw data and put it into, at the request of the DA's office, into some type of readable format, right?
Utilizing a program named Oscar.
Okay, so it's actually the program that put it in this readable format, not you.
I mean, I navigated and generated the reports through the software application.
But it's actually the software that's organizing it
Correct.
when you put it in.
Yes.
All right, so basically you're just reading what this report says when
Correct.
it comes out of the other end. But, you know, it's like a hot dog machine. It's like you put in some information, it tabulates it, and then you read the report it generates.
Correct.
Okay. So you didn't actually do a review of the CPAP machine to make your determinations. You're reading what a computer program did, correct?
That plus the dates from the raw data on the initial CPAP reports that were produced.
While you were inputting that data, did you ever do any tests to make sure that it was operating and functioning correctly?
Looking at the dates and times from the initial CSV file that we had, or the Excel spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet and the initial output just defines a date and time that a log was generated, not the contents of the log, which is where this software application came in and read the contents of those log files.
Okay. Well, here's my question. Did you ever do like a test, like, hey, I need to see if this program is actually working. So let's put in July the 1st and see what it tells me and see what this program spits out on the other end.
Not specifically like that, no.
Okay. Because what I'm trying to figure out if there's any way that you could have limited the possibility of error. Let me ask you another way. Did you just essentially put in all of the raw data that you could from the CPAP SD card into this program?
Yeah, the only way it allows you to display files, I can't pick and choose what information is inputted into the software application. It is uploaded directly from the SD card.
Okay, so you have to kind of do it all at one time.
Correct.
All right. So if there was an error in that Oscar program, you wouldn't know, right? Without having to go through and correlate it with all of the raw data that you had.
Correct.
Okay. And yet again, like Judge Cannon had asked you, that program, to the best of your knowledge, isn't licensed by the CPAP manufacturer.
It is not.
Nothing else.
I have no questions, Judge.
I'll ask one more. You can't guarantee that there aren't images that aren't missing from the SD card of the trail camera that weren't deleted and overwritten while start over. There are multiple photographs of the trail camera continuing to take pictures after the event. No one turned it off.
It obviously was turned off at a certain point.
At some point after it took about 8 images
Seeing
on the
last-
scene and in your office.
See, I was about to say, seeing the last picture was an individual in my office. I imagine that's when they would.
So no one turned it off or just took the SD card out.
I do not know the answer to that one. But yes, it would have either been turned off or somebody took the SD card.
But not for some period of time.
Correct.
You can't guarantee that there aren't images that were deleted that weren't overwritten by the other photographs that continued to be taken by the camera.
Correct.
I have no follow-ups, Judge.
All right, you can step down. We'll take a morning break. Well, yeah, we're still gonna take a break. We're gonna break in an hour for lunch, but we'll try to take it short.
So, Ronnie, are we on a lunch break? Is that what I heard him say? Wow. Well, head on over to the boom, y'all. I'll stay up here though. Court is still on break for this trial. We are over at the Sarah Boone motion hearing if you'd like to join us.
let's go ahead and bring your witness in.
State Hall Sharon Cooper.
When we come back from breaks, if it's a new witness, let's get them loaded up instead of waiting for them to come in after the jury gets here.
Ms. Cooper, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, have a seat for me and speak up into that microphone in front of you so that all of these folks can hear you, okay?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes. My name is Sharon Cooper.
I'm going to scoot this microphone. I'm gonna have
Can you hear it?
scoot in a little bit. And then there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Sharon Cooper.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
How is it that you know the defendant in this case, Melody Farris?
We were friends. We lived in the same neighborhood, and we used to walk a lot together and spend time together, get nails done together, go shopping together, that type of thing.
What year did you meet Miss Farris?
2016.
And you said you used to walk together a lot. How frequently would you walk?
Oh, for a period of time there, it was, I would say, daily.
On these walks, would you share personal information about your lives?
Yes.
Have you ever met Gary Farris?
Yes.
About how well did you know Gary Farris?
Not very well, actually.
Did you know Scott Farris?
Yes.
And how well did you know Scott Farris?
Acquaintances, not very well.
What did you know about Melody and Gary's relationship?
That it was strained and not close.
Did you and Melody discuss the Farris's finances ever?
Yeah.
In what context?
Just she shared with me that she didn't have access to any of the money, that her name had been taken off of everything, and so she didn't have access.
Okay. And if you could, I know it's hard to speak up a little bit.
Okay.
Did she have any debit cards? Credit cards?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Did she have a debit card?
Yes.
How did you know that?
She told me.
And would you go shopping together?
Yes.
When you would go shopping together, would Gary know where Melody was shopping?
Yes.
How would he know that?
Because if she ran the debit card, he got a notification immediately.
Did she ever explain to you how she felt in her marriage?
Yeah, she wasn't happy in her marriage.
Did she ever express to you why she wouldn't leave Gary?
Yeah,
What was that?
it had to do with wanting to stay, because if she left, she wouldn't have access to any funds.
Did you learn about a man named Rusty Barton when you were walking with Melody?
Yes.
Who was Rusty Barton?
Rusty Barton was her boyfriend,
Whose boyfriend?
Melody's boyfriend.
And did you learn at any point that Melody had, how would she contact Rusty Barton?
By phone.
How many phones did you know Melody to have?
She had 2 phones.
Do you know how Rusty was saved in her phone?
Yes, he was in her phone as XO.
And would you see him call or see her text? Is that how you knew that?
Yes. Yes.
Do you know when Rusty entered her life?
I don't know.
Was it prior to you and her becoming friends?
Yes.
He was already in her
It was
life.
an established relationship prior to that. Yes.
At any point, did Melody send you her debit card?
Yes.
For what? Well, let me ask you this. Where were you when that happened?
I was in Minnesota. I was in Bagley, Minnesota.
And why did she send you her debit card?
She asked me to use it somewhere locally there because she had told Gary that she was with me.
Where was she, in fact?
She was in the Bahamas
With who?
with Rusty.
Please stick around. I'm going to show you. Can I approach the witness, Your Honor? I'm showing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit Cooper 1. Do you recognize that address?
Yes.
State moves to admit State's Exhibit Cooper 1.
That's good.
What did she want you to do with the card?
She wanted me to use it up there in Minnesota.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did actually.
Where did you use it?
I used it at a little cafe in Leonard.
Is this the cafe that you used?
It is, yes.
And was that the date on which you used it?
It is, yes.
Did you and Melody remain friends?
After which point?
Up until today. When did the friendship change?
I would say the friendship had changed when I had started going up to Minnesota and spending a lot of time away. I had moved. I wasn't her neighbor anymore. So we had less frequent contact with each other. And that happened, I'm sure early 2018, somewhere in there.
How many phone numbers did you have for Melody?
I had 2.
Okay. Did you show that to the police?
I did.
You spoke with the police
Yes, I
after
did.
what happened to Gary. Okay. Do you remember when that was?
Yeah, it was just a few days after his death.
And did you tell them all of the information that you and I are discussing today?
Yes, I did.
Would Gary restrict what Melody purchased?
No, he did not. Not that I'm aware of.
Just had knowledge about what she was purchasing.
Correct.
That's all I have, Ms. Cooper. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good morning, Ms. Cooper. My name is Michael Ray. I represent Farris. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
You flew down involuntarily from Minnesota?
Yeah,
Now, when you lived, you didn't actually live on Purcell. You lived off one of those little side roads that come off Purcell.
correct, Hickory Hill.
And you and Melody, y'all used to walk up Purcell, up to Birmingham Highway, and around the neighborhood around Terry Braswell's house.
Yes,
And Terry was a friend of yours too.
yes.
And y'all met him walking.
Yeah,
No, I knew Terry for
that's a good
years.
friend.
You knew him for,
Mhm.
is that because of his business?
Yep, and he had a daughter that used to ride horses where my daughter rode horses, so I met him years ago.
Okay. And then you and Melody were out walking and he was mowing his grass and you were like, hey, there's Terry.
Yep.
Okay. And that's how Melody and Terry Braswell met.
Correct.
Moving on to the phones. Ms. Frankus asked you if you had 2 phone numbers for Melody. That is correct, right?
That is correct.
In fact, when y'all used to go walk, you saw her that she had 2 cell phones.
Correct.
Did Terry Braswell, did she ever have her 2 cell phones when y'all were talking with Terry Braswell on your walk?
Not that I can recall, possibly.
Possibly though. Regarding the financial aspect of it, I believe you justified that Gary didn't limit what Melody could buy, correct?
That's correct.
I think you actually said in your interview that it didn't have anything to do with about Melody spending money, right?
Correct.
It was just, he just wanted to know what she was spending money on.
He wanted to know where she was.
Yeah, where she was or what she's buying. All right. Now, you were aware that, because you had been to the Farris's home, right?
I had, yes.
Okay. You were aware that Melody and Gary basically lived separate lives.
Yep.
And that she lived upstairs and he lived downstairs.
Correct.
All right. Now, you had also met Gary at least on one occasion,
Yes, I had on a couple of occasions.
on multiple occasions. What was Gary's demeanor like when you met him?
Quiet.